Excellency, Deputy Prime Minister, Cabinet colleagues, distinguished members of the Saudi delegation, the Pakistani business community, a very warm welcome, a very good morning, and Sabah al-Khair. Over the last 12 to 14 months, Alhamdulillah, we have had and we've made very tangible progress in terms of the macroeconomic stability. By the time we closed the last fiscal year, and as you know, our fiscal year is from July 1 to June 30th, all macro indices reflected this progress. On the fiscal side, we were in primary surplus. Our current account deficit was less than $1 billion, a stable currency, foreign exchange reserves, which had dipped to 2 weeks of imports, were up to over 2 months of import cover. The downward trajectory on inflation, and I'll come back to that in a moment, reduction in the policy rate, and all outstanding dues to our foreign investors got paid before we started this fiscal year. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure and privilege to say that we have consolidated those gains as we've entered this fiscal year. In the first quarter, which closed end of September, on the back of very strong remittances, indeed, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia plays a very, very important and critical role in terms of that corridor. So we always remain grateful for that. Also, the export flows, especially in terms of year-on-year, very critical deltas and important deltas in terms of IT services. Inflation, which had peaked at 38%, for the first time in September, all indicators, whether it's the headline inflation, whether it's the core inflation, whether it's average inflation, Alhamdulillah, came down into single digit, and we were at 6.9%, and inshallah that trajectory will continue as we go forward. And on the back of that, we've seen the reduction in the policy rate. There's more to do on that front, but especially the Pakistani business community, which is sitting here, all our friends, hopefully are seeing jo samarat hain uske in terms of the reduction in Kaibo, because that's what impacts you in terms of your lending rates. And inshallah, we will continue to see those markup rates continue to come down so that we can start seeing lending back into the private sector. And when we talk about the private sector, someone just mentioned to me that, and I want to say that in a lighter way, that last time I was here at this conference, and this is the second summit, I'd said if the private sector has to lead the country, then the private sector has to be sitting in front, and the government functionaries have to be sitting at the back. So I'm very grateful to the organizers of this conference who have exactly done that, where we give due credit and remain respectful to our business communities, both on the Pakistan and the Saudi front, in terms just of the seating plan. Now coming back to the economy at the moment, now what we've seen is on the back of this macroeconomic stability, we have seen credit rating upgrades. Now there's more to do on that front as we move towards B- at least. We have seen institutional flows coming back into the country, both on the debt side and on the equity side. And yesterday, we actually saw an all-time record high of Pakistan Stock Exchange. As a finance minister, I am slightly cautious about taking credit for the stock market, but it is a data point, and I thought it was important to mention that data point. We also had, during September, IMF approve and their board approve an extended program for the country. It has really two implications and two reasons why we wanted to go into this extended program. One was to bring permanence to the macroeconomic stability, and I just mentioned a few things which are happening on that front. And the second thing is to execute the structural reforms which have been elusive in this country. Under the guidance of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, we are now well underway in terms of structural reforms, whether it's on the taxation side, whether it's on the energy side, whether it's the state-owned enterprises. And we are very clear in the government that the government has no business in being in business. The government has to provide policy framework and policy continuity. It's the private sector which has to lead this country, and therefore we welcome all the delegates from Saudi Arabia, because this sort of re-emphasizes the importance that we put in terms of B2B businesses as we go forward. And we are very clear, we need to execute these structural reforms. We are very committed to these structural reforms so that we can get from stability to a path of sustainable growth, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellency, Deputy Prime Minister, we are at a good place on the economic front, and we are open for business. As the ministers who would follow me and Minister of Commerce has already made a very strong, put a very strong proposition in terms of why Pakistan is a very important destination for investments, inshallah, going forward. I would like to just conclude by thanking Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Royal Court, in terms of providing the necessary support throughout the turnaround journey over the last 12 to 14 months. And I would be remiss if I don't express my personal gratitude to my dear brother, Minister of Finance, Honorable Al-Jadaan, with whom I have interacted over the last 6 months very, very frequently. And I do want to, as I said, express my sincere appreciation and gratitude for his personal guidance, his engagement in terms of where we are. We owe a lot to him and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency, Federal Minister for Finance and Revenue, Senator Muhammad Aurangzeb, for your views. And as you rightly mentioned, the private sector has to lead the economy, and the economy is indeed in the growth phase. Ladies and gentlemen, the establishment of Special Investment Facilitation Council, SIFC, as we know, was a key milestone in establishing the right trajectory for tapping our investment opportunities. Now, I would like to show you briefly the potential and investment opportunities in Pakistan in this video.